There are people in your life who are not just ordinary companions. They are subtle thieves of vision. They do not come with weapons. And they do not make bold declarations of hostility. No, their influence is far more dangerous because it comes quietly, like a shadow that creeps over the sunlight in your life. These people are gifted at discouraging others, not because they are malicious in the traditional sense, but because they are trapped in the limitations of their own lives. They have learned to live small, and they cannot bear to see someone else rise above the level they have allowed themselves to accept. Your vision, your calling, your dream, these things frighten them because they are a reminder of what they have refused to pursue. You see, God places visions in the hearts of people for a reason. He has a specific plan, a specific destiny for your life, and He gives you glimpses of it so that you can begin the work of preparation. But there are always those around us who do not see or appreciate the sacredness of that vision. They do not understand it because their perspective is limited to what is comfortable and familiar. When you share your dreams with them, instead of encouragement, you often hear doubt. Instead of support, you hear caution. And instead of excitement, you encounter resistance. These reactions are not accidents. They are reflections of their inability to rise beyond their own limitations. It is important to understand that discouragement can appear in many forms. Sometimes it is subtle, almost unnoticeable, disguised as concern or advice. Are you sure you can handle that? They ask. Maybe it's too risky, they suggest. Or worse, they may respond with silence, the kind of silence that communicates skepticism without words. This is the language of the person who drains your vision. And if you allow yourself to remain in that environment day by day, month by month, year by year, your dream will begin to fade, not because it is impossible, but because you are slowly absorbing the doubts of others. Vision requires courage, but it also requires protection. Just as a precious seed cannot grow in a polluted river, your dream cannot thrive in the presence of those who cannot see its value. They do not wish to see you fail intentionally, yet their limited thinking acts as a force of gravity, pulling you back to the level of their comfort. They will question your plans, mock your ambitions, or subtly suggest that your goals are unrealistic. And if you are not careful, you may start to internalize these messages, allowing their fear to become your own. You may begin to doubt the very thing God has placed in your heart. The key is discernment. God has given you the ability to see the difference between those who genuinely love and support you and those who are not equipped to walk with you in the pursuit of your destiny. Loving someone does not mean allowing them to stifle your potential. It does not mean that every voice around you is a voice you must obey or consider in the shaping of your path. Sometimes love requires distance. Sometimes it requires stepping away from relationships that are draining the energy, faith, and courage that are essential for your progress. Think about it. Your life is a journey, and on this journey you cannot afford to carry unnecessary weight. People who drain your vision are like heavy stones in your backpack. You carry them because you care, because you feel obligated, or because of history, but the longer you carry them, the more exhausted you become, and the harder it is to climb to the heights God has prepared for you. And this is why God warns you. He knows that if you remain in the company of those who cannot celebrate your dream, you may never reach the fulfillment of your destiny. Your vision is too sacred to be compromised by the insecurities of others. It is also important to understand that these people are often unaware of the damage they cause. They are living within the boundaries of their own fears and insecurities. Their world is small and they have adapted to it. They have learned to settle. And when they see someone striving for more, it challenges everything they believe about life. And so, without realizing it, they become a mirror of limitation in your life. You see, your vision requires an atmosphere of possibility. It requires encouragement, inspiration, and belief. And when the people around you cannot provide these things, it is not malicious. It is simply incompatible with what God has called you to achieve. Sometimes the act of staying away from these individuals is not about punishment. It is out preservation. It is about creating space for your vision to grow and for your destiny to take shape. This does not mean you treat them with hostility. It means you honor the plan God has for your life more than you honor the comfort of pleasing everyone around you. Protect your vision as you would protect a newborn child. Guard it, nurture it, and do not allow it to be suffocated by doubt, fear, or limitation. Remember, the people who drain your vision are not your enemies. They are simply not your allies in this season of your life. And God's warning is clear. To fulfill your destiny, you must surround yourself with those who lift you, those who encourage you, and those who believe in the potential He has placed within you. Your destiny demands it. Your vision is sacred. Protect it. Every decision you make shapes the course of your life. Your destiny is not a matter of chance. It is a result of choices, guided by wisdom, discernment, and a heart aligned with God's purpose. But there are people in your life whose influence is dangerous because they subtly steer you toward choices that are not aligned with the destiny God has designed for you. These are not always people who seem malicious. Often, they are well-meaning, but they are guided by limited understanding, fear, or self-interest. Their opinions, if taken as truth, can lead you away from your purpose without you even realizing it. You see, there is a principle in life that cannot be ignored. Who you allow to influence your decisions determines where you will end up. Every great leader, every person who has achieved their destiny has learned to guard their mind and heart from the influence of those who cannot see the bigger picture. When you surround yourself with people who have no vision, who operate out of fear or doubt, their worldview becomes the lens through which you start to evaluate your own dreams. You begin to measure your possibilities by the limitations of someone else's mind rather than the potential God has placed inside of you. Consider the subtle ways this influence manifests. It may begin with advice. Are you sure this is the right path? They ask. At first, it sounds reasonable, even caring, but repeated over time. These questions seed doubt. Every maybe you shouldn't, or perhaps it's too risky, is a small crack in the foundation of your confidence. If you allow it, these cracks grow until your one strong conviction wavers. The dream that burned brightly in your heart begins to flicker, and you start to second guess what God has already shown you is possible. And it's not just advice. Negative influence can come in the form of constant comparison. People who live in mediocrity tend to judge the ambitions of others harshly. They measure your potential against what they believe is achievable, not against the calling God has placed on your life. When you listen to them, you start to adopt their standards, their limitations, and their fears as if they were your own. Slowly, you begin to shrink your vision to fit the comfort level of those around you, rather than expanding it to align with your God-given destiny. Your choices also determine your path in terms of character and relationships. Those who influence your choices negatively often encourage shortcuts, compromise, or decisions that are convenient rather than correct. They may persuade you to take the easy way out, to settle for something less than your best, or to act in ways that conflict with your values. And while these choices may offer temporary relief, in the long run they derail you from the purpose God has designed for you. Every step taken outside of God's plan is a step away from the life you were meant to live. This is why discernment is not optional, it is essential. You must learn to recognize the difference between advice rooted in wisdom and guidance rooted in limitation. You must understand that love does not require agreement with every opinion or idea. Sometimes the most loving act toward your own destiny is to distance yourself from those whose influence does not build, strengthen, or inspire you. Your choices must reflect the voice of God, not the noise of the world or the fears of others. It is also crucial to realize that people who negatively influence your choices are often unaware of the damage they cause. They speak from a place of fear, insecurity, or lack of understanding. They are attempting to protect you in the only way they know how, but protect. Time without understanding can be more harmful than helpful. Their guidance is not evil, it is misaligned. And if you accept it blindly, you risk living a life that is safe but small, comfortable but unfulfilled, secure but far from the destiny God has for you. Your destiny requires courage, the courage to make decisions that may not make sense to others, but make sense to God. It requires conviction, the conviction to pursue what you know in your heart is your calling, even when everyone around you doubts, questions, or discourages. And it requires wisdom, the wisdom to choose your influences carefully, to surround yourself with voices that speak life, hope, and encouragement rather than doubt, fear, and limitation. Think about it like this. Every decision you make is a step along a path. The people who influence your choices negatively are like fog on the road. You cannot see clearly, you hesitate, you stumble. But when you step away from their influence, clarity returns. The path becomes visible. You see the direction God is leading you. You gain the courage to walk boldly, knowing that every choice is guided by purpose rather than fear, by faith rather than doubt. Remember, no one has the authority to dictate your destiny except God. And while advice, counsel, and perspective can be valuable, not all guidance is wise or aligned with your calling. You must choose carefully whose voice shapes your decisions, whose values guide your actions, and whose vision aligns with the destiny that has been placed in your heart. Guard your choices as fiercely as you guard your dreams, because the two are inseparable. Your destiny is too precious to be influenced by those who cannot see it. Protect the decisions that align with God's plan. Listen to those who inspire, encourage, and elevate you. Distance yourself from the voices that lead you away from your purpose, and step boldly into the life that God has designed just for you. Your choices today determine your destiny tomorrow. Time is one of the most precious resources God has given you, yet it is one of the most often disrespected. Your destiny cannot be fulfilled if you allow the people around you to waste what God has entrusted to you. There are individuals in your life who may not intend harm, yet they have no respect for your time, your priorities, or the purpose you carry within. They demand your attention for trivial matters, for gossip, for complaints, or for distractions that pull you away from the path God has set before you. And every moment you spend on these things is a moment stolen from the life you were meant to lead. Some people have a way of making your time feel endless while simultaneously robbing you of it. They call for favors without consideration, show up unannounced, or expect you to drop everything to address their emergencies, most of which are not emergencies at all. They do not understand the concept that your time is sacred, that every hour, every minute, every second is an opportunity to advance your calling. These individuals may not even be aware of the cost of their demand, but the effect is the same: distraction, depletion, and delay. And the cost of delay in your destiny is immeasurable. It is essential to recognize that respecting time is not just about efficiency, it is about honoring purpose. God has placed specific assignments, opportunities, and responsibilities in your life. Every task you engage in should align with your purpose, your vision, and your destiny. When someone disrespects your time, they are indirectly interfering with the work God has called you to do. They may not be malicious, but their influence can be deadly to your dreams. Time wasted in trivial pursuits cannot be recovered. Every minute you allow to be hijacked by others is a minute that cannot be used to grow, to serve, or to fulfill your God-given potential. The people who disrespect your priorities often do so subtly. They appear concerned, caring, or friendly, but their actions contradict their words. They insist on calling at inappropriate hours, constantly ask for favors that benefit only them, or expect you to rearrange your schedule to accommodate their needs. If you are not careful, you will allow the lack of boundaries to dictate your life. You will find yourself running in circles, trying to meet everyone else's demands while your own dreams are left unattended. Gathering dust like an unfulfilled promise Boundaries are not just a luxury, they are a necessity for anyone walking in purpose. God has given you a calling, and fulfilling that calling requires focus, discipline, and protection of your time. You must learn to say no, even to people you love or care about, when their requests or demands threaten to derail your priorities. Saying no is not selfish, it is an act of faithfulness to the assignment God has placed in your life. Every successful person, every leader who has made a mark, has learned the art of protecting their time. They understand that once time is lost, it cannot be recovered. You must also understand that disrespect for your time is often a reflection of the person themselves, not of you. Those who constantly interrupt, delay, or demand attention are usually disconnected from purpose. They may be aimless, unfulfilled, or unorganized, and their chaos becomes an intrusion into your life. But your destiny requires clarity, not chaos. It requires peace, not pandemonium. And so, to protect what God has given you, you must prioritize your time over the distractions, interruptions, and demands of those who do not understand the value of purpose. Consider this. If you allow every request, every demand, every interruption to control your day, you are living someone else's life. You are allowing their priorities to become your schedule, their concern to dictate your focus, and their trivial matters to delay your progress. Your vision is not just something that exists in your mind, it is something that requires action, effort, and dedicated time to manifest. And when your time is disrespected, your action is hindered, your effort is diluted, and your vision is delayed. The solution is simple but often difficult. You must create an environment where your time is valued and protected. You must evaluate every relationship, every interaction, every commitment, and ask, does this contribute to my purpose, or does it distract from it? And if the answer is distraction, then you must step away with wisdom, courage, and love. Protecting your time is not about cutting people off. It is about ensuring that the energy, focus, and moments God has given, you are invested in what truly matters. Your destiny is a sacred assignment, and time is the currency to achieve it. Every hour squandered on disrespect, distraction, or triviality is a missed opportunity to move closer to what God has designed for you. You cannot compromise your future to accommodate the demands of those who do not understand your calling. It is not arrogance to protect your priorities, it is stewardship. It is a recognition that God has entrusted you with a purpose, and you are responsible for cultivating it, nurturing it, and defending it against anything or anyone that threatens its growth. Do not apologize for valuing your time. Do not justify your boundaries to those who do not see their importance. Protect your hours, your days, your moments, because in them lies the power to fulfill the destiny God has placed in your RT. And as you do, you will find clarity, focus, and the freedom to pursue your vision without unnecessary interruption. Time is sacred. Guard it fiercely. There is a subtle danger in the world, a danger that is often overlooked because it wears the mask of friendship, familiarity, or comfort. It is the danger of people who encourage mediocrity. These are the individuals who are comfortable with average, and they will do everything they can sometimes, intentionally, sometimes unconsciously, to keep you at the level they have accepted for themselves. They cannot celebrate excellence because excellence reminds them of their own unfulfilled potential. And when you aim for greatness, their words, their attitudes, and their subtle criticism can become chains, binding you to a life far below what God has planned for you. Mediocrity is not simply the absence of excellence, it is the settling of the mind and spirit into the realm of comfort rather than challenge. Some people have learned to live safely, to avoid risk, and to accept what is familiar rather than pursue what is possible. And while this may be safe for them, it is dangerous for you. God has designed you for greatness, but greatness cannot survive in the presence of those who have resigned themselves to less. They will discourage your ambitions, belittle your dreams, or plant seeds of doubt, often under the guise of concern or advice. And if you listen, even for a moment, you may find yourself settling for less than what go. Intended, it is important to understand why some people promote mediocrity. It is not always out of malice. Often, it is a reflection of fear. Fear is a powerful force. Fear convinces people to stay small, to avoid risk, to accept limitation. And fear, when mixed with envy or insecurity, can lead to the subtle act of discouraging others. People who have not pursued their own potential are threatened by the potential in others. They cannot rejoice in your vision because it confronts their own failures or unfulfilled dreams. Your ambition becomes a mirror that reflects what they have denied themselves. And that reflection can provoke them to discourage, distract, or diminish you. Mediocrity is contagious if allowed to infiltrate your environment. When you are surrounded by people who are comfortable with the status quo, their attitude, their mindset, and their limited expectations can quietly shape your own thinking. You may begin to adopt their language, their fears, and their limitations, thinking that this is what is reasonable, practical, or even safe. But safety and comfort are not the measures of destiny. Growth, purpose, and impact are. And the moment you accept mediocrity as a standard, you are stepping away from the greatness God intended for your life. The danger is amplified because people who promote mediocrity often disguise their influence as care. Don't try to do too much, they say. Don't aim so high, you might fail. Be realistic, they advise, as if realism is the measure of possibility. And while their words sound reasonable on the surface, they are a subtle form of bondage. They are designed to keep you small, to prevent you from pursuing what is extraordinary. But God's plan for your life is never small. Your calling is never average. Your vision is never limited by the expectations of others. It is limitless because it is divinely inspired. Greatness requires courage, persistence, and an unwillingness to settle. It requires surrounding yourself with people who elevate you, who challenge you, and who inspire you to reach higher. Those who encourage mediocrity do not provide these things. They create friction against progress, slow your momentum, and introduce doubt into your mind. And while you may still achieve something in their presence, it will never be the fullness of what you are capable of because your environment, your association, and your influences are not aligned with excellence. You must also understand that the influence of mediocrity is often subtle and slow. It does not always appear as overt opposition. It creeps in through comments, advice, jokes, and comparisons. Over time, you may find your ambition dampened, your creativity stifled, and your courage weakened. This is why discernment is essential. To achieve your destiny, you must recognize the difference between those who genuinely support your greatness and those who consciously or unconsciously reinforce limitation. Your life is a masterpiece in the making, and masterpieces are not created in the company of mediocrity. They are created in the presence of excellence, vision, and courage. You must seek out those who inspire you to reach higher, think bigger, and act boldly. You must distance yourself from those who are comfortable with less, who will tell you to aim lower, who will normalize limitation. Protecting your vision requires recognizing that not everyone who smiles with you or nods in agreement is helping you move forward. Some are quietly pulling you back, anchoring you to a life that is smaller than your potential. Remember, mediocrity is the enemy of destiny. God has called you to greatness, not to comfort. Your dream is not designed for convenience. It is designed for impact. You cannot achieve the extraordinary by surrounding yourself with ordinary thinking. You cannot fulfill your calling by accepting the limits of others. Excellence demands focus, courage, and intentional associations. Choose carefully the people with whom you share your journey. Surround yourself with those who inspire, challenge, and encourage you to live above average. And let go of those who encourage you to settle. Your life was never meant to be average. You were born for significance. You were created for impact. You were designed to rise above mediocrity. And anyone who tells you otherwise is not aligned with your destiny, do not settle. Rise. There are people in life whose presence is like a storm. They do not simply live along. Side you, they disrupt, disturb, and distract. They thrive on drama, chaos, and conflict, and in doing so, they make it nearly impossible for you to think clearly, make wise decisions, or move forward in your God-given purpose. Your destiny requires focus, clarity, and peace. It requires an environment where your mind can be free to dream, your spirit can be free to soar, and your energy can be devoted to fulfilling your calling. Chaos, on the other hand, consumes attention, energy, and direction. It drains your ability to act with precision and purpose, and it can derail your life faster than any obstacle or limitation ever could. These people may not intend to destroy your destiny, but their influence is destructive all the same. They live in a constant state of emotional turbulence, and because they are so accustomed to it, they normalize it in their relationships. A person who thrives on conflict may bring arguments into your life, stir tension where none existed, or manipulate situations to provoke drama. If you are not careful, you can become entangled in their storms, and in the process, lose focus on the mission God has given you. Every moment spent managing their chaos is a moment taken away from pursuing your destiny. Conflict is contagious. It spreads like fire in dry grass, consuming energy and attention wherever it goes. If you are constantly surrounded by people who argue, manipulate, or stir unrest, it is almost impossible to concentrate on the important work God has entrusted to you. You begin to react rather than act. You begin to respond to their problems instead of focusing on your purpose. And over time, this constant redirection can exhaust you, erode your confidence, and dilute the power of your vision. A distracted mind cannot hear God clearly, and a weary spirit cannot move boldly toward destiny. It is important to recognize that these people are often unaware of the harm they cause. They may justify their behavior with claims of honesty, passion, or intensity. They may insist that conflict is necessary, that their presence is unavoidable, or that life is naturally chaotic. But the truth is that chaos is not a requirement for living, and conflict is not a prerequisite for growth. God's plan for your life is order, clarity, and purpose. Your calling requires strategic thinking, calm judgment, and emotional stability, none of which can flourish. In the presence of constant upheaval, you must also understand that chaos is seductive in its own way. Drama can feel engaging, exciting, or urgent, and it can draw your attention like a moth to a flame. But this engagement is a trap. Every argument you enter, every crisis you manage, every emotional explosion you respond to is a step away from the work God designed for you. Your focus is your most powerful tool in achieving your destiny, and when it is fractured, your ability to progress is weakened. Protecting your focus is not selfish, it is a spiritual necessity. People who create conflict often operate out of insecurity. Their storms are born from fear, from unresolved pain, and from a lack of inner peace. They project their unrest outward, expecting you to absorb it, manage it, or submit to it. And if you allow yourself to be pulled into their patterns, you will begin to reflect their chaos in your own life. You will lose sight of your priorities, compromise your peace, and unintentionally adopt the mindset of turbulence rather than tranquility. But God's plan for you is not built on turbulence. It is built on purpose, order, and peace. Part of walking in destiny is learning to protect your environment, your mind, and your energy. You must recognize that not all relationships are beneficial. Not every voice deserves a platform in your life. Not every presence should be allowed to influence your decisions or steal your peace. To fulfill your purpose, you must sometimes distance yourself from those who thrive on conflict, even if they are close to you. This is not a matter of hatred or rejection. It is a matter of survival, focus, and obedience to God's plan. The lesson is clear. Chaos has a way of masking itself as life. Conflict can appear normal, and drama can seem unavoidable. But if you are to fulfill your destiny, You must learn to see through the distraction and focus on what matters. You must cultivate relationships that build, encourage, and inspire, rather than those that provoke, disturb, or diminish. Peace is not passive. It is an active D. Escission, choosing clarity over confusion, focus over distraction, and order over chaos, is a deliberate act of protecting your destiny. Every great leader, every person who has walked in purpose understands the power of environment. They know that their surroundings shape their thoughts, decisions, and action. They know that chaos cannot coexist with vision, and conflict cannot coexist with destiny. And so they choose carefully who they allow into their lives, what voice they give attention to, and which situations they invest energy in. Their priority is not drama, it is destiny. If you want to fulfill your God-given purpose, you must do the same. Protect your peace. Guard your focus. Avoid the people who create chaos and conflict, not out of anger, but out of obedience to the vision God has placed in your heart. The path to destiny is narrow, and it is not designed for distraction, turmoil, or emotional exhaustion. Step away from the storms. Step away from the noise. Step into clarity, calm, and purpose. Peace is a prerequisite for destiny. Guard it. Your spiritual growth is the foundation of your destiny. Everything you are, everything you hope to achieve, and every step toward the purpose God has designed for you is rooted in your relationship with Him. And yet, there are people in your life who, often without realizing it, undermine that growth. These individuals may question your faith, mock your convictions, or belittle the principles that guide your life. Their influence is subtle, but its effects are profound. When you allow such voices to dominate your environment, they weaken your spiritual foundation, cloud your judgment, and make it more difficult to hear the voice of God guiding you toward your calling. Spiritual growth is not optional, it is essential. It is not a luxury reserved for those who have time. It is the very source of clarity, wisdom, and courage needed to walk in purpose. The people who undermine your spiritual growth often fail to see its importance. They may operate from a mindset that values convenience over principle, entertainment over enlightenment, or skepticism over faith. They do not understand that faith is the engine of destiny, that obedience to God's principles unlocks opportunity, and that a strong spiritual foundation enables you to withstand challenges that would otherwise derail your life. These individuals often disguise their influence under the guise of reason, logic, or worldly wisdom. Why are you so rigid, they ask? Why can't you just be flexible? They suggest, or they may subtly criticize your devotion, your moral standards, or the choices you make to align with your beliefs. At first, you may dismiss these comments as harmless, but over time, repeated exposure to such attitudes can plant seeds of doubt. They make you question your convictions, second-guess your decisions, and sometimes even compromise the very principles that God has placed in your heart. It is important to understand that undermining does not always look like outright opposition. It can appear as mockery, sarcasm, distraction, or passive disapproval. It can be the laughter at your devotion, the dismissal of your study, the subtle insinuation that faith is old-fashioned or irrelevant. These are not just attacks on your beliefs, they are attacks on your foundation. And without a firm foundation, your dreams, your vision, and your calling can crumble under the pressures of life. Spiritual growth requires intentionality. It requires consistent effort, study, prayer, reflection, and alignment with God's principles. It demands that you cultivate relationships and environments that uplift and challenge you rather than drain or diminish you. When you allow people who undermine your growth to dominate your environment, you are placing yourself in opposition to the very source of your strength and purpose. You are allowing distractions to dictate the rhythm of your spiritual life. And in doing so, you weaken your ability to fulfill the calling God has placed on you. Consider the subtle danger of influence. A single conversation, a repeated suggestion, or a pattern of discouragement may seem minor, but its cumulative effect is profound. When someone questions your faith or ridicules your principles regularly, it erodes confidence, fosters doubt, and clouds your judgment. Spiritual clarity is essential for decision-making, for seeing opportunity, and for moving boldly toward your destiny. And when that clarity is compromised, your progress is compromised. You begin to operate with hesitation, fear, and uncertainty instead of boldness, courage, and conviction. Those who undermine your spiritual growth often do so unknowingly. They are operating from their own limitations, insecurities, and misunderstandings. They cannot see beyond their own perspective. And because of this, they may assume that their worldview is the only reasonable one. They do not understand that your faith, your spiritual alignment, and your obedience to God's principle are not inconveniences to be corrected. They are the very engine that propels you toward your destiny. Your growth is sacred, and it must be protected. Protecting your spiritual growth requires boundaries, discernment, and courage. It requires you to evaluate every relationship and every interaction through the lens of destiny. Ask yourself, does this person strengthen my faith, encourage my growth, and challenge me to live according to God's principles? Or do they undermine, distract, and weaken my foundation, and then act accordingly, walking away from those who consistently diminish your spiritual life is not unkind, it is an act of faithfulness to the calling God has placed on your heart. Your spiritual growth is inseparable from your destiny. Without it, clarity is lost, wisdom is clouded, and courage is weakened. With it, every decision aligns with divine purpose. Every challenge becomes an opportunity for development, and every action moves you closer to the life God has designed for you. And so, the people who undermine this growth, whether through ridicule, distraction, or subtle disapproval, are not just obstacles. They are dangers to the very path of your calling. You cannot allow anyone to dilute, distract, or destabilize your faith. The world will always offer opinions, critiques, and temptations to abandon the principles that sustain your growth. But God calls you to rise above these influences. He calls you to protect your spirit, to nourish your faith, and to align your life with the eternal. Truths that empower you to step fully into your destiny. Your spiritual growth is sacred. Protect it fiercely. Guard it from those who would weaken it. Surround yourself with voices, relationships, and environments that elevate your faith, inspire your devotion, and strengthen your foundation. The choices you make today in protecting your spiritual life will determine the heights you reach tomorrow. Faith is your foundation. Do not compromise it.